Xanthopoulos, and I have the greatest job in the world. Every day, I'm surrounded by incredibly intelligent, fun, and purpose-driven people, whether that's my team at the Leadership Edge or our phenomenal clients. Together, we have the opportunity to profoundly impact the pace, performance, and cultures of the world's most innovative life science companies. I'm really excited because recently I had the opportunity to meet with one of those special people, Julie Smith, the president and CEO of Escape Bio. Julie started out studying science in college, but rapidly advanced in her career as she held commercial roles with Genzyme, Jazz Pharmaceuticals, and Inovia, as well as COO and eventually CEO of Raptor Pharmaceuticals, where I met her. Julie's also been kind enough to join us in a fireside chat as a part of our Leadership Edge for Women program. And like the Leadership Edge, Julie's incredibly committed to supporting the advancement of women in the life sciences. I'm so pleased that you're joining us for the first of a 4-part series in which Julie shares with us the many lessons she's learned on her journey from studying science to becoming CEO. Today, she'll explore some of the challenges women face in the life sciences, whether those are self-imposed or imposed upon us by others. Welcome to our conversation. What's so much fun about this is that I've known Julie for quite some time, and it's been so much fun watching you advance in your career and really developing this wonderful friendship over the years. So it's really great when I get to sit down and just have a chat with a friend, and especially one who has so much experience, so much great insight, and so much value to add. So welcome to our little interview here today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me.
Well, it's such an honor, really, Gaylene, and I always love catching up with you. And there really can't be a more important topic than how we develop and empower half of our workforce.
I think we have the great privilege today of hearing your insights, both from the board perspective, and I know there's a lot of things changing on boards, especially here in California, and women on boards and some of those requirements, as well as broader diversity requirements, but also really from a leadership perspective. So, as we get started today, as a woman who's accomplished so much, and you have, I'm sure it's not been without its challenges. And so when you think about women in general in this industry, what do you think are some of the unique challenges that they face today? And these might be challenges that are self-imposed or those that have been imposed upon them because of their gender.
Where shall we begin?
There's so much.
I mean, it's such an important question, and there is no doubt that women do face unique challenges, especially in male-dominated industries. And let's face it, biopharma is heavily male-dominated. And so there's barriers and challenges that are imposed on us, and those that we impose upon ourselves. So, kind of taking that first category, largely, I would bucket several of these challenges into the category of unconscious bias. Mm-hmm. So we all move through the world, and we have societal imprinting to think about leaders and leadership being more highly associated with male behaviors, or maybe it's the other way around, male behaviors are associated with leadership. And when women leaders come to the fore, we break that mold. And so we're all constantly moving through the world, but for female leaderships, we're kind of going against the tide in that way. Mm-hmm. And I should comment that this isn't just true for women, but any people that belong to a category of other. Mm-hmm. And I define that, lots of different ways to define it, but I define that as somebody that's not a heteronormative white male, right? I mean, mm-hmm. that's still right. The majority. Mm-hmm. And so I think what's so fascinating, given what's happening in our political environment right now, is we're seeing how women leaders are perceived in real time. And back to 2016 when Hillary Rodham Clinton ran for president, the conversation was largely about looks and likability, and not about legitimacy. And, I think that women often have to jump through those two hoops of looks and likability before they can get to legitimacy. Mm-hmm. And I'd really like to see that change in our lifetime. I think that the conversation, we as humans, we want to be valued for our contributions on merit, and the credibility that we bring as contributors to society. And so I think in life sciences, it's really no different. Our male counterparts are working through their own unconscious or subconscious biases. I think the other thing I would mention is that they've done lots and lots of studies where researchers ask kids from a really young age, like in kindergarten, and I know they've done it in the third grade as well, to draw out a picture of a leader. And, it's some incredibly high statistic, like 9 times out of 10, or even for the little girls, it's 8 times out of 10, they're drawing a male figure.
Right.
And so, I think that when women leaders rise through the ranks and take leadership, it is breaking that mold that is in people's unconscious minds. And that's just something that we have to be conscious of and purposeful about as we develop our leadership capabilities.
Right. And I think it's so important, in this era of so much DE&I work starting and an awareness being gained around things like unconscious bias, to realize too that we need to normalize some of these things in terms of seeing women in leadership roles, seeing women in the boardroom, seeing people of color in those roles. It shouldn't be, oh, we're celebrating the first and the first and the first. This is our first female board member. This is our first female vice president of the United States. I mean, thank goodness we're having those firsts. But it will be so exciting, I think, as we create more and more visibility and get greater and greater momentum, that it starts normalizing that, so that those young girls in kindergarten start, when they think about leadership, the picture they draw is of a woman or a man, right? But equally. Or they as a woman or a young girl really see themselves as having potential to be in those roles. And same for people of color, whether they're Black or brown. It's not unusual to have a Black scientist or a Black leader. And so we've got a lot of work to be done. But I think, as you said, it's this unconscious bias. People don't come into that boardroom or come into those rooms necessarily saying, oh, it's a woman, I don't want her here. I mean, there's probably some who might do that, but how they judge and how they filter, like you said, that looks and likability, if those are the first 2 factors, and boy, have we seen that, right? And I know my coaching of women, we see that come up a lot. It's like, oh, well, she's just a little edge to her. It's like, yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's lots of code words for it. There's edge, there's fit. I can't tell you the number of board conversations I've had where the nominating corporate governance committee is talking about, board candidates, director candidates, and we'll get to a candidate and a female candidate in particular, and there'll be this, well, I don't know about fit. And fit is code. It's really loaded for not like us. And, I think there are important aspects of making sure that a person would fit into a culture, a team culture on a board. But I think it can rapidly and all too often become an excuse.
Absolutely. And when you're looking at board composition, because when we do our board assessment work, one of the big pieces we typically do is around board composition. What I'm pleased to see is more recently, and I'm really saying in the last year, so that's pretty darn recent, but more recently we're seeing on their list of skills and competencies and makeup, when they're thinking about the boards, they're starting to list diversity. Like, that's a first step, because we never used to see that. Then we go to the flip chart and start jotting down potential names of candidates, and they're all male, the whole list. And I'll look at them and say, hey guys, you had something here around diversity. And again, this is, I think we go back to our networks. We go back to the people we have these long-term relationships with. And some of these people, we look to the people, oh, I was on a management team with them 20 years ago, we built 3 companies, and now of course I want them to be on my board. And so some of it is we've got some catching up to do of having more women in those board, in the leadership halls and those kinds of things, but also a mindfulness and an intention and a really purposeful search to say, we see these benefits of women in the room and other perspectives and experiences and things. So I think we've got a ways to go.